Hey there and welcome to No Recipe Required. Hope you're doing well. Tonight I'm going to do a roast chicken for you. And I do roast chickens probably once every 2 weeks or so. And I love the plain old ordinary, but I also love to try and make them a little bit different, keep them interesting. This particular one I cover with bacon and cook it off for about 45 minutes or so, half an hour, 45 minutes until the bacon is crispy. Remove that, let the chicken skin get crispy. We've got some rosemary, some lemon stuffed on the inside. We're going to make a sauce for it. It's going to be killer. Let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so I've got my chicken here, and let's go ahead and prepare him for roasting, him or her. Not sure which we've got here. I like to oil down the skin. This is just a little bit of olive oil, and you can use butter as well. I've got it breast side up, and then we're going to season with salt and pepper. Now, working with chicken like this, you got to be careful of the cross contamination. So I generally, I'll use one hand as my clean hand, non-chicken hand, and the other hand to kind of work with the chicken and pat down my seasoning and maneuver the bird if I need to. That way we stay nice and safe. Once we get our salt and pepper on there. Now we're doing lemon rosemary chicken, so I've got a couple sprigs of rosemary here. I'm going to slide that right into the cavity, just stuff them on up there. And then I've also got some lemon that I've just quartered, and I'm going to throw that up in. And those will kind of steam, give off their flavor into the chicken, and make a nice little flavor. We're obviously we're gonna finish with a little bit more of that rosemary flavor in our sauce with the pan drippings. Now, I've also got a little bit of diced rosemary that I just chopped fine that I'll spread right on the bird as well. And then the final thing I'm going to do is actually cover the breast meat with strips of sliced bacon like this. All the way from the top down to the bottom. And this bacon kind of provides a bit of an armor, right, for the breast meat, and keeps it nice and moist. And obviously, as the fat drips and melts down, it also gives off a tremendous amount of flavor to the chicken as well. So now we've got that on there. Let's go ahead and start it up. Alright, let's go ahead and get started cooking our chicken. Now I'm actually going to do mine in one of my larger saute pans here with fairly thick sides. That's important because we are going to get some some juice and drippings out of the chicken, and obviously we want to keep those in the pan. I just added a little bit of olive oil. By the way, if you have a roasting pan, by all means you can use that. I sometimes use mine. Mine happens to be dirty, so I'm not using it. I'm going to use the pan here. We're going to grab our chicken and place them right in that pan. Breast meat up, and you can hear that nice sizzle. That's again because we got the pan nice and hot, and I'm just going to let it cook right on the stovetop here for about 5 to 10 minutes, probably closer to 10 minutes or so, to get that underside. Get it nice and warmed up. Otherwise, I find it just kind of, the fat never renders down on the underside if you just stick it in the oven. I do have an oven preheated to 400 degrees. Once we're ready, we're gonna just move this, transition it into the oven for about an hour or so. We'll talk about doneness at that point. Okay, my bird's been going now for about 10 minutes. Obviously, the fat is rendering out, and frankly, when this bacon cooks down, you're going to end up with a lot of fat, which we're going to separate later on. I'm about to put it in the oven, and what I'm going to do is add a half an onion. I've got an onion that I just quartered here. You can dice it up, or you can cut it up in a couple pieces, but you want nice big pieces so that they don't burn in the oven. And then I've got 5 garlic cloves. You can use anywhere 3 to 6, 7. It's all fine. I've left them in the shell, again, to prevent burning, and I'm just going to scatter those around. They're going to caramelize, cook down beautifully, and become part of our sauce when we put it together in the end. Now the beauty here is this is kind of a put it in and forget it. I'm going to just turn off the heat, We're going to take this, we'll drop it into that 400-degree oven. It'll probably take about an hour and 15 minutes or so, but really, best thing to do is use a thermometer, which we'll go ahead and do ourselves. Okay, after just about half an hour in the oven at 400 degrees, the bacon is essentially cooked. So I'm going to remove that. It's kind of done its duty. It's given up its flavor into the meat, kind of self-basted the chicken. So I'm going to pull it off. And I do want to get, that chicken skin nice and crispy. I think that's some of the best part. So I'm going to pull this off and then put the chicken back in the oven at 400 for probably another half an hour, 40 minutes or so. Then we'll start testing to see whether it's done. Okay, I just pulled my chicken out of the oven. It, total cooking time has probably been about an hour and a half or so. More importantly, I've got my thermometer in. I stuck this in after about an hour, and I'm letting it go to where the breast meat, deep inside reads around 170 or so. You can also tell, it's done if you grab some of the joints like the legs here, and if they move around fairly easily, that's a good indicator. The other thing you may want to do, give it a check. Give it a check at the hour mark. If the skin, maybe half an hour after we took the bacon off, if the skin isn't starting to get nice and brown, turn up the oven so it does get nice and crispy. We do want to make sure we get that nice crispy skin. So I've pulled it out of the stove. I'm going to transfer this to a cutting board and then let it rest for at least 10 minutes or so to let it all just kind of settle down, let the juices calm down, get back into the meat. While we're doing that, we'll make our sauce. While our bird rests, I'm going to go ahead and make the sauce for our lemon thyme chicken. Now, the most important thing to do here, this is all great flavor in here. We've got those garlic cloves, we've got all the drippings from the chicken, but we also have a fair amount of grease. And so I'm going to drain this into a bowl, and then essentially just do what I just did there. Dip a spoon in, lift out the fat, and discard that fat. Just throw it away. That's going to leave us with some nice natural juice from the chicken. I'm going to hold on to the garlic cloves because we're actually going to squeeze those out into the sauce itself. We can go ahead and discard the onions. They've given up their flavor. Okay, guys. So I've got my sauce or the drippings from the chicken fully separated. This is actually the oil or the grease. I'm going to discard most of it, but I do want to go right back into the pan that I cooked the chicken in. Add a tablespoon back, along with just a little bit of flour, maybe half a teaspoon. And this, as we know from the other videos that I'm sure you're watching on the site, we're essentially making a little bit of a roux here. Flour and fat is roux, and that is going to thicken up our sauce. I'm not looking for just personal preference, I'm not looking for a big thick gravy, Thanksgiving-like sauce, but I do want a little bit more body to the sauce than just the drippings reduced itself. So that's why I'm making a fairly light roux, not a whole lot of flour in there. And this really just needs to cook for about a minute or so. It's already done. I can tell it's changing color a little bit. So we're good to go. Let me grab the stock or the drippings that we pulled off from the fat or separated from the fat. And we're going to go ahead and add that to the pan here. So here are the drippings. You can see much more fat than there were drippings. That's because we used that bacon. I'm going to add just a little bit. Stir it in to that to that base or that roux that we had there. Add a little bit more and just keep going. We'll get the rest of it in there. Now, rarely do I get enough true drippings from a chicken to satisfy my sauce needs. So what I've done is also pulled out some chicken stock. Mine is actually from the last chicken I made. Use the carcass, and you can go ahead and make your own chicken stock. But if you're using store-bought, that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to add that to this as well. Make sure the heat is up so that we get a nice boil on the sauce. And then once this comes to temperature, we're going to finish it off with a little more rosemary, a little more thyme, and we'll be done. Okay, I've got my chicken stock added to my sauce. And what I just did, remember those garlic cloves that we roasted off with our chicken? I literally just hold it at one end, squeeze it at the other end. Nice soft garlic paste essentially will fall right out. And we just stir that into our sauce. If at any point it starts looking a little bit thicker than you want, just grab a little more chicken stock, throw that in there. Our sauce though is a lemon rosemary, so let's add a good little squeeze of lemon, probably a teaspoon of lemon, and then a half teaspoon of nicely chopped rosemary. That's going to go in. Sauce is finally going to thicken up, or do our final thicken. We'll get it down to the consistency we want. Even that garlic that we just put in there, that's going to help thicken it up as well. If you, like I said, if at any time you need, go ahead and just add a little bit of water, a little more chicken stock, keep it at the consistency you want. But I think this is looking good. We want to give it a taste. Make sure it's good for salt and pepper. This one is. Let's go ahead and serve it up. Okay, so we just finished our chicken, and we've got our lemon rosemary sauce right here. We want to give that a nice little drizzle right over the top, and we are good to go. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.